So my diesel tank sprung a leak, and turned out it was actually a couple of leaks. It's old. It was really rusted on the bottom, and when I got it, you can see what I did here. I cut the tank in half. Figured I'd put in a new bottom here. So that's what we're doing. That's our project of the week here. Now that some hay and slowed down, I got some grass planted. This is what I'm making the bottom out of right here. It's a 4x8 sheet of 16 gauge hot rolled metal. Picked it up at our local steel supplier. It was about $59, I think, with tax. But the idea was that 16 gauge would be thin enough for me to curve and put a radius in to match the bottom of the fuel tank here. So I tried doing that with a whole bunch of ratchet straps to put a radius in it, but it turns out that didn't work even in the slightest bit. So I took this piece of metal to some really good folks at Dothan Blowpipe, and they put it in a slip roller and put a nice radius on it. And they told me, hey, we rolled it a little tight so you can spread it out a little bit when you get it in the tank. And I'm like, well, okay. I didn't really want it rolled tight per se, because you see what I'm doing here. I've got my wife's luggage carrier for her car weighted down in here to try and push the edges out. It actually worked pretty good. But they did do a good job of roll. I mean, it was a nice, smooth, even radius. I was pretty impressed that they actually got a couple of my wrinkles out when they rolled it through. But it's working. I'm actually kind of impressed at how well it actually welded together. Lesson learned. I thought I'd be slick and put some rust converter, some OSFO to take care of the rust problem under here. What that OSFO does is it converts iron oxide to iron phosphate, which is really hard. It's that black surface that you see in there. Turns out it is horrible to weld on, and it is nearly impossible to grind off. Just these two strips along the edge of the tank, I wore out 4 flap discs getting it down to bare metal, because I wanted a nice bare metal surface to weld to. So yeah, I mean, that was probably okay in the bottom, because it was just rusted along the whole bottom, where I guess water had set in the bottom of the tank without being cleaned out for a lot of years. But don't put that rust converter anywhere you plan to weld, because you get horrible results and you'll have to take it off, and that's kind of a pain. But anyway, you can see where I started welding on here. I've actually got the bead all the way across the top here. What you're seeing, that pattern here, is I didn't weld one single bead all the way up. What I did is I tack welded in certain places. Use this metal rod steel rod right here to jam up the metal onto the surface where I tacked it. And I started running, 1 or 2 long beads, here and here, and then came back and added some more bead to it. And the whole point was to dissipate the heat, to keep all the heat from building up in one spot and warping the sheet metal, which I'll be doing the same thing over here when I get it all situated. I'll get these sides in, then I'll weld down along the bottom seam. Should be done tonight. Then when I get that done, I'm gonna inspect my beads, make sure they look good, grind them down with a wire brush, get all that flux off there and check them out. And then I'm gonna go to the auto parts store and get some red coat. And then I'm gonna red coat up past the weld seams, the whole bottom pan here, so we don't have that rust problem again, in case moisture builds up in the diesel tank. I'm going to take my other half of the diesel tank and I'm going to set it back on there, and I'm going to weld that seam closed. Yep. that's the plan anyway. So we can put some fuel back in this sucker. We gotta get it filled up before the fuel prices go back up. Because this is a 270 gallon tank. And 15 cents makes a big difference. But anyway, yeah, so that's why I got all those logs in there. And you're like, what has it got sitting in the tank? You know, it's just weight. I need to add some weight to that steel there to get it in. Using my handy dandy Harbor Freight Easy Flux 125. That is an amazing little welder. I can't believe I wasted so much time stick welding and TIG welding, having never touched a MIG type welder. And I picked this little sucker up, and oh man, this thing right here will make a novice look like a good welder. This thing's awesome. Love it. Anyway, maybe I'll take another video once I got it filled up and done and back in action. Thanks for watching.